truth is in the details. I made this video a little bit longer than really what I wanted to, but the reason I did was because I wanted to show, uh, obviously, that the sun is no longer in view, um, and it went to my vanishing point. Of course, as anybody should know, just like looking at the top of a table level with it, the surface is just a little sliver. Now to see, the table in its entirety, you have to rise up to see it. And when you rise up to see it, you do see the whole entire table, but you see beyond the entire table. So in turn, if the table was very, very long, you'd have to get up very, very high to see the whole surface of the table. Um, the other thing is right here, I always say that there's this gray point, this gray area in the distance on the horizon. And the way I look at it is the bottom is displaced upwards due to the magnification that's further away, and the clouds or the top layer is curved downward. In other words, it creates a pinching off effect of the horizon. This is why you'll never find the true horizon, even on the clearest visible days that you can get, because there's nothing that's absolutely, positively, 100% perfectly clear. There's always going to be some type of density gradient, um, and your visibility is only going to have a certain amount of distance to it to begin with. In other words, your visibility limits are limited. No matter how much um, of a zoom camera we have, a telescope we have, there's always going to be a limit. The same way with light. Light always has its limits. No matter how bright it is, it's still going to have its limits. Um, but the whole purpose of me showing the whole thing was so that you could see the sun go to its vanishing point. And as the sun does go to its vanishing point, you'll see some things. Like right here, if you look at the clouds above and the clouds below, you see this mirroring effect occur. And this acts just like what I want to say, Raleigh's criterion. And if you're not too familiar with Raleigh criterion, um, you should Google it or look it up and check it out for yourself. It's when two objects get so far away, they start blending in and becoming one object. And then that object, again, at this point where we're looking at, it's going to go to its vanishing point, always moving away in a straight line, never in a curved line. And that's why observations are very important. If you can't observe it, then what good is the observation? So again, I go out and do these observations. A lot of other people are too. And we're coming up with the same conclusions that basically what we're seeing is an illusion of a sun setting, and it's really not setting. Just like running two parallel lines, one above the other, eventually those parallel lines will converge to each other. And again, if you magnify the very end of your visibility to those lines, one will curve up and one will curve down, pinching off the true horizon. Now, I don't expect anybody to believe anything I say, which is absolutely fine, because I want people to go out and observe this for themselves. Now, if you don't have the same location that I have, all you need to do is find a long, flat area where you can view the sun and watch it for yourself. I do have a unique place. Florida is very unique because we have a wide variety of different atmospheric conditions, or I should say weather conditions, where we have difference in humidity, wind, everything. But if you notice how even these clouds are lit up white on the backside, just wait, it even gets better than this. Now I have some, it's raining, got some rain on the lens, Also got a little bug stain or something. I may have squished a bug on my lens. So here in a little while, I'll scrape it off. I didn't notice it because I was paying attention to what's going on out into the horizon more than I was what was stuck to my lens. Uh, but of course, obviously, it's raining too, so I'm getting water droplets on. And this was something too I wanted to show the moon so somebody wouldn't say it is the moon that's lighting these clouds up. It sure is not the moon. Um, and here again is where I say, somebody might say, well, look at there, the sun is lighting up that side of the moon. Well, yes, it is. In my opinion, it is the sun lighting that part of the moon up. But I also think that I would see the whole moon lit if it wasn't for the overabundance of light lighting one side up, which drowns out the lighter light that the moon is actually producing itself. So the moon does produce its own light. It's just that the reflected light coming off the sun is overpowering the lesser light that the moon displays itself. Um, Again, you don't have to agree with me. You can totally disagree with me. That is absolutely fine. But the thickness of these clouds, too, should be blocking out all of that light. Now, too, if you watch, I'll actually use my compensation exposure to lighten up the the background right here. I'm lighting it up. I'm making more light so you can actually see it. But then I will take the lighting down, also almost to the darkest it'll go, and obviously this light from the sun, which is supposedly went down over the curvature of Earth, cannot be lighting all the way directly through all of these clouds. Now, up at the very tip top, yes, that is light lighting through the clouds. But just wait. I've sped all this footage up, slowed it down in certain places, but most of it's been sped up. This is 2 times its speed. Now watch right here. I mean, it is absolutely awesome, beautiful when you're out there standing, because I'm getting 180 degrees with my vision, with my own eyes. I'm able to see almost 180 degrees, where with my camera, you're only limited. You're not seeing what I'm seeing with my own eyes. And that's another thing too. When we zoom completely back on these cameras, you're not getting the full perspective. Everything looks further away, but it actually isn't, because anybody that's being truthful, when you look with your own eyes and then you look at your camera, things look a lot further away, even though you're not even getting the wide angle view that your own eyes get. So you know, try to tell people, don't try to deceive people with, saying that, oh, this is what we see and this is what we're not seeing. Because sometimes I can see the object out on the horizon, but when I zoom fully back, my camera cannot see it. But then again, I got to say the opposite way goes the other way too. Sometimes I cannot see what the object out on the horizon is until I zoom in on it. And then when I zoom in on it, to my surprise, well, not really anymore, but when I first got into this, to my surprise, I was able to see the boat complete and full in the water, on top of the water, on a crystal clear day. So again, folks, this is lighting up the backside of the clouds. People may ask, well, how is it doing that? Um, it surely isn't lighting the bottom of the clouds up due to the sun shining at the bottom of the clouds. This is reflected light off the clouds behind me, reflecting back to the clouds in front of me. That's the only explanation that I could give to it, but it certainly is not due to the sun shining from underneath these clouds. All these clouds are still lit from the top, although the sun has gone supposedly below the curvature of Earth. It has not. It has only gotten farther away, but has gotten farther away and gone into the vanishing zone where we can no longer see it with our eyes. Like I say, it went to its convergence area, and in that convergence area, you cannot see past the convergence line. It's just impossible to do. So in turn, I always like to tell people, go out and do your own observations, decide for yourself. And if you're not great at making videos, that's fine. At least you have the knowledge in your own mind and you're doing your own science. No matter what these trolls say, this is observational science, no matter how you look at it. You observe and to learn. And that's exactly what I've done. Because again, I got into this really to debunk flat earth, but became a flat earther myself. So like they say, once you go flat, you don't go back.
Here, I'm here with the lovely Wide Awake, who I've missed him. I haven't had a hangout with him for a little while because of things. But we've come together today and he's going to talk a bit because your observations are amazing, Wide Awake.
Thank you, Karen. And it's a pleasure to be here with you.
Also, how you get those colours, I just don't know on your footage. When I go to your channel, I just think, oh, look at all those colours.
Yeah, sometimes it's even prettier in person, when you're watching it with your own eyes. Sometimes the camera doesn't do it that good of justice. But yeah, sometimes I have to turn down the saturation because it makes it too colorful. But that's a lot of times if you crank up that your in your settings, you can give it more color or less color. So again, some of that color is kind of like from the camera, but then other times the camera doesn't do it justice because it's even more colorful. But getting back to
Yeah, we were talking
magnification.
about that because I hadn't really thought about it. Just very quickly, so that people listening understand. What's his name? His name's gone out of my brain. Who did we have the hangout with?
Zenith Atlas.
No, it
Who,
wasn't him.
well, he was at Concaver,
Oh yeah,
right?
not
And
him. No, the guy with his doing his photography. You had a hangout with him about 6 months ago.
oh, right.
He's called He's got a picture like of Jesus on it, hasn't he, or something like that. The Mona Lisa or something.
Oh, Travis.
That's it, Travis. Oh, that would have been awful if we hadn't remembered his name.
Yeah,
Yeah, he was the one that came to me with some pictures, and then I went to you, and he said he wanted to hang out, and we had one. But I hadn't realised that you could stand in the same place, and then you film it one day, and it looks like it's just in front of you, and you go back, stand in the same place, and the next time when you film it, it looks like it's miles away, and that's what you're going to explain, isn't it?
yeah. And who the main guy that brought this to my attention, and then I really started to really look at a lot of my footage and see if it applied to it was Rob Skiba. And I don't know if you know it, but Rob Skiba died due to the so-called corona. But his problem was he went to the hospital. That was probably the worst thing he could have done was go to the hospital. And I suspect that their protocol is what actually did him in, not the flu. And that's pretty much what it is. Again, if
I don't
you
want to say very much because we can't say anything here
yeah,
about it. But my
right,
ex-husband's
well,
wife had a heart problem,
yeah,
and just when the virus was coming in, they wouldn't operate on her. But she was called a COVID death, but she died because she wasn't operated on.
yeah, that's a shame. But anyhow, he brought that to my attention, so I started looking at it, and I realized that the magnification can cause all kinds of issues. Number one, it can make your horizon drop, which would give you the impression of a globe. It can make your horizon rise, which will give you the impression that it's concave. But all in all, I can create this same effect on a flat surface that causes both. So again, like you were saying, there's times where I've zoomed in on the Bayport bird rack, which is approximately 3.5 miles away from me. and it looks like it's right in my face. I mean, it's like, boom. And then other times I zoom in on it and it looks like it's much further away.
That's weird, that
Um,
is, though, isn't it?
yeah. And
And also, the other thing I hadn't thought about through Travis is that things reflect. They're still reflecting in the photographs. That's what you're actually picking up on, is actually the reflection.
yeah. And let me tell you, people might laugh about this and they, that's funny. It's fun. Oh, you're just full of shit. But there is what I call atmospheric mirroring. Okay. People don't like the word atmosphere, put in your planosphere, uh, you know, mirroring. The mirroring, when you get a mirroring effect, that literally does, it creates this upturned edge, okay, and that is atmospheric mirroring, and that does cut off stuff from bottom up. And I can prove that with my videos. That one day I go out and I can film boats coming out of the Bayport or Hernando Beach, which is where I start seeing the boats. It's like 4.8 miles, 5 miles, and I can see them perfectly in the water. I mean, absolutely gorgeous. I mean, I've got one where there's no distortion at all. You can see the boats, you can see the people on the boats, but it looks like it's right in your face. Um, again, it's magnification without mirroring. It basically brings it right to your face. But this mirroring effect can happen up close, or it can happen where it's much further away, where the horizon.
Basically, what it is when you're looking out, you've told everybody that there's this mirroring effect going underneath the sun. When you're looking out, so it's very hard to even judge how far everything is away because there's this mirroring effect, and when boats and everything go into it, you lose them, don't you?
Yep. And the same way when I show like the sun departure and how it starts it reflects off the water, and then it kind of blends into its own reflection. That is the atmospheric mirroring that I'm talking about. Because on the angle that we're looking at, we should see maybe the streamline or the reflection of the sun streaming all the way back to the shoreline at us, but there's no way I would see it. And that's why I call it an upturned edge. In my last video, I explained how, is an upturned edge. And concavers think that that's proof of concavity. But I'm saying no, that this is an atmospheric mirroring that rises up and creates this blockage to see even further into the horizon. You can only see past a certain portion.
So your own place deceives you, doesn't it? It just deceives you.
And here's my thing. If you think this atmospheric mirroring isn't real, well, how do you get a phantom Morgana? How does that occur? That occurs in the air, right? Where you got the object that's below it, and then you got the object that's above it that's inverted upside down above it. So that is mirroring off of what? The air, right? So it's mirroring off the air. So what causes that? Well, the same thing. There's an abundance of moisture in the air, or the gradual density.
Well, that's supposed to make the clouds, isn't it? The moisture is supposed to rise up and make the clouds.
Yes. And this is my thought too, that if the surface can have that atmospheric mirroring, right, then above the clouds can also be pulled down as the water is being pulled up. So you're actually having like this, the sky curves down, not due to it being curved, but it pulls down and then the water pulls up, or that atmospheric mirroring pulls up, and it pinches everything off in the horizon. That's why sometimes you'll see clouds that look like they're going below, the horizon line, but it's actually just partly perspective. But there's also, in my opinion, there's also this pull down of the clouds too to make
it makes sense really, because when they go up in high altitude balloons, everything below reflects up, everything. So the clouds are reflecting.
Oh yeah.
You don't think of that, do you? You look up and you think, oh, it's really grey and but they're reflecting as well.
I was just watching another one of my videos where The sky was just loaded with clouds. The sun was way, way on the western horizon, um, and all these clouds were blocking it out. But when I turned my camera back to the east, you could see all the clouds above, not lit up, but the whole horizon to the east was
Can I just say
just
something to
all
you?
red,
I wish I'd
all red.
caught this picture. I saw it, but I was driving, and you can't just suddenly sort of stop the car and drive in the middle of traffic. But the clouds were there, and then the sun was poking through these clouds. It was
Well,
massive cloud, and then suddenly these clouds opened up a little bit, and the sun came through for a while, and I just thought, oh.
oh yeah, that's kind of a beautiful sight too if you can film that. I always love that, that effect that occurs. Like this morning, the crepuscular rays coming off the sun, instead of coming down, we're going up.
Why do
And
you only see those one way usually, don't you? I usually only see those later in the afternoon when the sun has kind of gone past me, and then in front of me I can see all the crepuscular rays. Get a really good view of crepuscular rays here, like just looking west when the sun's gone over. Why do the crepuscular rays really only show themselves later in the day than earlier?
well, it does happen early, but most of the time, if there's no clouds in the sky, you don't see those upper crepuscular rays because the clouds are actually helping create those crepuscular rays. I mean, without the clouds, you don't get the crepuscular rays. So you got to have clouds in order to have the crepuscular rays.
Can I ask you one thing? I was going to stop you there because I know you've got stuff to talk about that you like talking about, but do you ever see those things flying around up there?
You know what? It's funny that you asked me that. I can't because of the way most of these Zoom cameras are. Once you hit record, you get a lot less light because it's a low light camera. But if you're not recording and you're just kind of like zooming in on a star just to kind of get it in the center of the screen, that's how I, find these stars as I zoom in before turning on my camera. I zoom in, find it, and then I hit record. And usually, if it's a bright star, or depending on your light settings, and that's something too that I
These
brought
things
up.
are flying around in the clouds, and they're
Well,
flying across the front of the sun as well.
I was trying to find. I think it was Pluto. Yeah, it was Pluto. I was trying to find, um, because I find most of these wandering stars with a star map app I got. So I kind of hold it up and I see whereabouts it is, and so I zoom in that particular area. And I was zoomed in. I was zoomed in almost all the way, and again, I didn't have the camera turned on, but here all of a sudden this little dot of light came across my screen, and I started following it, with the camera without turning it on, and it was really weird because this thing had to be moving at a fast clip. Now it was like a little tiny, it looked like a star, but it was moving completely opposite the direction of the way stars were. And because I was so far zoomed in on it, it was like, this is not a plane. I mean, I've been zoomed in on, Polaris.
They're not that big. I don't think they're even the size of an aeroplane. Well, say they're the size of an aeroplane, but they're up there in the clouds. And what it is I film them in front of the sun. I don't see them with my naked eye. A lot of people are capturing these things on their cameras, but I used to hold it up in front of the sun and then look at it all and blow it all up, and then I could see these things flying across.
Well, here's one of my
And then people have sent me videos where they've been filming the clouds and they're going, look at those things. But I don't know if many people see them with their naked eye. It's almost, I don't understand, the cameras pick them up.
Well, I get a lot of bugs. I mean, when these little gnats are flying around down at the beach, they're called no-see-ums, and they bite like, I mean, you can't even see these things, but they got a heck of a bite. I mean, they'll annoy you so much you'll leave if they're really bad. I mean, because they get into anything. They're so small. They just, I've looked down at my socks, wearing white socks, and my socks were like covered with these things. That's about the time I leave when they're that thick. But when I'm filming,
These are not
I
bugs. These are not
one,
bugs. I don't know what they are. I couldn't tell you whether they're from another dimension, whether they're us, whether it's HARP.
yeah, it's hard to prove something like that. Like I did put out a video back one time where I was videoing the sun, and I was like, "What the heck is this?" And I got a lot of comments on it. And I actually went back out to the same spot and was filming again. And I realized that, gnats hover, even dragonflies will hover. I mean, I was actually seeing um, a bunch of these gnats, mosquitoes, little flying bugs that were giving me the impression that something was flying or hovering around the sun.
Wide Awake, I used this footage. It's on Sun and Moon. And basically, these pilots were flying, and there's all these weird things happening around them, and there's all these sprites happening. They're going all over the place. Like, we don't realize what's going on up there. It's alive up there.
Oh, I'm not saying that there's nothing up there, Karen. I really think that there, what was Satan? He was the prince of the sky, right? The air, prince of the air. So yeah, there's something out there. I mean, I was filming or taking long exposures of lightning, and I noticed that there would be a little dot, and it's like it would be in multiple pictures. Um, and then it was like kind of hovering in the same spot. Like my pictures, when I pull them up in my program, I can zoom in and out on them. And I zoom into it, and I see this little dot, and it's like, what is this? Now, I thought, well, maybe it's something on my lens. So I get out my lens wipes, I wipe it all off, I make sure it's all clean. I visually cannot see nothing on my
Wide
screen.
Awake, I can't.
Well,
I'm really annoyed now
my
because
lens,
I'm just tired, so I don't remember all the names. But I forget what she's called now. What it was is she had her camera up, and she was basically talking. She said, "Do you see that mark on my lens?" She said, "Well, look, I've moved my camera over here," and then she moved the camera back, and the thing flew off. But it looks like it's on the front of her lens. Oh, it's really weird what happens. That was just so weird. She put the camera back, and whatever was on her lens suddenly just flew off. Oh, it's really weird. I don't know what they are.
if people wonder if we're living in end times, I mean, my opinion of that is we we are that generation that we are the generations that the Bible says, for a future generation to come, and I think that was in the book of Enoch. That there's going to be some really weird stuff happening, which we look around our world today and we all see it happening. Our man, how can I say? Okay, look at this worldwide conspiracy, right? It's a worldwide conspiracy, or is it all the governments worldwide are conspiring against humanity? Because what I see going on and wanting to get everybody in the world, what I mean. They want to get everybody in the world, and it's a hard push, and we're getting demonized for not accepting and not complying, and that's fine with me. You can demonize me all you want. I'm not complying. And when I look at that, and I kind of called this right at the beginning of the whole thing. And I made a couple videos where I mentioned it. One of them I was mad, and I had my reasons for being mad. My uncle passed away after having both, and that kind of ticked me off too, because it's like, what? I know the man was old, but he was probably one of the healthiest old guys I've seen in a long time. I think he was in his 70s and late 70s, and it's just hard to believe that um, it got him. And that's the problem.
Well, he went downhill so quickly and then gone.
Yep, yep, yep. And Rob lasted 40 days or something like that, 45 days or something, which, that's torture. That's torture. That to me is torture. I'd rather go like that than, over a long span of time.
We can't talk about it very much, but I think your uncle died a little while ago, didn't he? And they were already experimenting with getting ready to do what they did to us anyway. They were doing it 6 months before.
Yeah. Well, see if you talk about it, you got to beat around the bush.
What I mean is hospitals changed, everything changed months
Oh
before.
yeah, oh yeah, and forcing anything upon anybody is no better than rape. No better than rape. So if you want to be raped, comply. If you don't comply.
I'll save it for off-air stuff, but I'll tell you a bit when we finish the hangout. I'm pleased about this though.
Yeah.
But
Well, you can always
can't really talk about it on here because the beings above us don't like it.
You're not live, right? So you could edit it out if we slip up and say you could edit it out. I mean that would not bother me none. But I've been working outside pretty much all my life, and I work in the dirt. And
do you think the clouds have got lower?
Well, wow. You know what? In Florida, I've seen clouds go real low in Florida. I mean, way before I was a flat earther. It's because the weight of water that's in these clouds when they are black. I mean, I've seen clouds that were just totally so black and low lying, coming in real low. And that's when we get those like days where we get 6 inches of rain in 4 or 5 hours. It's like, wow.
By the way, do you think, when you think like the other day it rained all day and it's just hard to believe all that rain came from the clouds, do you think it is the clouds that are giving us the rain, or are they the portal it comes through or something?
Well,
I've heard black isn't blue, is it? The water's see-through. So why are the clouds black? They should be blue, shouldn't they?
Well, I don't. You would think that they wouldn't look the way they do, but you steam water. What do you see?
Yeah, and it does seem to come from the clouds. But now the people are saying they don't think it's the clouds that's actually producing the rain.
Well, I think the reason why I think the reason why the clouds are so black on the bottom is the sun cannot shine through them. Number one.
So why doesn't it shine more blue then? With the fact that it's up in the light, you know what colour the sea looks like and rivers. So why doesn't the sky look like? Why is it black? I'm not having a go or anything. I'm just asking.
I just think it's just because the light can't shine onto the bottom of the clouds, so they will appear black.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, you see clouds at night, right? I mean, you see white clouds at night, but when you look at the bottom,
why aren't they more blue? Because they've got water in them.
Yeah, but when you look at the bottom of those same clouds, they are dark. I mean, if the moon or the sun's out, they're dark. And that's because they're not getting hit by much light. Okay, especially if the whole sky is loaded. I mean, just packed full of heavy, thick, dense clouds. You're not going to see any light that gets through them, so it doesn't light anything up.
When you fly through the clouds, it's not like you go, "Oh, look, it's raining all over me." You don't see any. When you fly through clouds, you never think, there might be a little bit of water, but you never think, "Oh, it's raining."
I've been in small planes and flew through the clouds, and the windshield on the plane did get water on them. It's like a dew. It's like driving in fog. You you've driven in fog before, right? Every
Yeah.
you got to put your windshield wiper on
Well,
every once
isn't
in a
fog
while.
really low-lying cloud?
Yeah, pretty much,
Hmm.
pretty much, pretty much. And you know, is the fog coming from the ground or from the sky? Which one is it? Is it you know that's a good question, but you know here again, you know bring up the fog. What you know what causes the backdrop when I'm out filming, like just above the water? It's all like hazed out, or you know again it's a buildup of the density gradient of the air. You know, the more water that's in it, all of a sudden you get this backstop. It's like a back curtain. It drops down and you can't see past it. It's the same way with turning on your bright lights in fog. Man, you can't see nothing, right? Because it just bam. But you know that there's something beyond it, of course, right? But you just can't
Well,
see.
I don't know if you did know this person. Do you know who Stan Smith is? I mean, he died last year.
No, I don't know who
Well,
he was.
Stan Smith used to put 360 cameras up in his roof, and he was looking at the weather and the clouds, and he sped it up a tiny bit, but sometimes the clouds would come along, one would disappear, and then another one would be made just in front of the camera. Like these things either, they could go and come right in front of the camera. It's so hard to believe that that's just atmosphere.
Oh yeah, I mean I've got plenty of time lapse where clouds vanish and then more clouds pop up, and I got clouds going in four different directions, and you know, and then the science says that you know it's dragging the atmosphere with us as we're spinning. How can that be? You know, if you got clouds going to the east and then clouds going northeast, and then some clouds, you know, and they're all in different layers. So what's what's causing those not to be drug along with the spin of Earth? You know, and you know, having the Earth spinning is so stupid. I mean, for us to believe it when we were children, I don't think any of us actually believed it. We were just taught that that was what was happening. So then, what do we do as we get older? We just spew out, right, the same old information that we got as a kid because we
We're
think
not
it's
taught
smart.
about the rotation of the Earth at school and things like that. I don't understand that. Like, how accepting we have been to believe their lies, and when they don't even teach us things that should support their model.
Well, what's the best time to brainwash a child? Between the ages of 5 and 6. When do you send your kids to school? Between the ages of 5 and 6. So you know you're sending your kids to the enemy to be taught bullshit that they're going to live the rest of their life thinking that it's true, but it's nothing but a lie.
I know, I've
And
actually thought it's not even just that, it's education, the media, it's everything. It's quite surprising that any of us are nice people at the end of this.
yeah, there's a word in education, that education, uh, that we got to be very aware of, that they hold a lot of power in this world that we live in, and they do control a lot of stuff. Matter of fact, I believe our government has been
But
taken
it
over.
didn't, it's someone like you, like, what? I just find it still crazy to think that about 2016, it could have been a bit earlier for you or a bit later. So many people woke up. It's really
Yes,
weird that.
yeah. You know, 2016 was when you know, I actually even was like, okay, you know, I'm kind of like on the fence about it, um, and I really wasn't a full.
And also, you were telling me, did you start off as a concaver and then changed your mind?
Well, yeah, I started off really as a glober, and then I saw flat Earth, and I I kind of laughed at it, and then you know then I seen a concave video, so I went to that, and it was Stephen Lord Christ or whatever you want to call him. I call him LSD, Stephen Lord dipshit, because I mean his model fell apart on me. You know, after watching it, and I was probably looking into um, concave Earth for a couple of months, at least 3 to 4 months. I was looking into it, and when I realized that that was just you know hogwash, I kind of went back and I looked at flat Earth again, and I said, you know what? I got to get a camera. So I kind of like played along with the flat Earth for a little bit, and as I was doing my research, or my tests, on what can we see, what should we be able to see, and then that led me into having to research refraction, and multiple other subjects, and that go along with flat Earth, and I didn't really, I really wasn't a flat earther until I got that one day where I had such great visibility. It was like, wow, I should not, even with great visibility, there's no way at my height at 28 inches should I be able to see, 11 miles out on the water, or even at 6 feet. You should not see 11 miles out because 6 foot off the water, your horizon ends at about 3 miles. So how am I seeing something at 11 miles? So that really is what made me a firm believer that this isn't caused from refraction. I mean, refraction does not cause these. What refraction does is it keeps you from seeing further out, because light reflects, which basically is what I would say would be light refraction. They want to say that it's going and bending and allowing you to visually see something beyond the curve. But when you start going back and looking at all your footage of the same place time and time again, day after day, and then all of a sudden you get this great day of visibility. Having great visibility isn't having excellent refraction. It's good visibility, so you're seeing well past what you should be able to see. And then those days where you have the heavy refraction is where you get the bottom of the boats cut off and bottom of islands cut off.
Yeah, those videos you made like that, they were amazing. I looked at quite a lot of those with the boats. That looks almost insane, doesn't it? When you're looking out, then there's a little gap, and it looks like the boat is floating across the water.
I have like 6 hard drives full of observational research. And again, as I go through these, and what's really hard for me is finding what I need for my little documentary that I'm going to make, and trying to figure out what to use to really prove my points as far as why I think Earth is flat. I mean, it's going to be my observational proof of what my theory is and why I think we live on a flat Earth. I mean, other people can dispute it. That's fine. I know I get concavers come on. Thanks for proving the Earth is concave with my upturned edge. No, that upturned edge is not physical. That is an effect caused by light, by the light reflecting off the water that's causing you to have this, and not actually off the physical water, off the water that's in the air that has this upturned edge to block you from seeing further into the horizon. And the reason I say that, because I've had days where I could see these boats out there that's so far out that there's no way that I would see them. There's no way that I should be able to see those boats. But there they are going across my screen. And I've had some.
Do you know what I think we're living on, by the way, as well? Well, I've got a star map, which is quite amazing because the Union Jack fits on that. And we know the Queen owns everything. She owns Australia, South Africa. She owns the Pitcairn Islands, and she owns Canada. Well, they become the corners, and then you see where the cross goes across, the crisscross, and then the cross across is India, there's Canada, and us, and probably Portugal and parts of Africa.
I saw that video.
And then Jamaica's on the crisscross. Okay, they've got different colours, but they've still got the crisscross. So I see it a bit like that. But when I'm looking now, up the road from me, we go down this hill, well, it's about 10 miles away, Swindon. You go just by Swindon. I think Swindon's on this plateau, but just as you get to Swindon, you go down this hill, and it's called Blunsdon Hill. And I think it's a mountain because it's got a peak on it. And it's in the books, you can find how tall it is. But Cirencester and Bristol and all that, they live down there. And then you've got things like the Himalayas. They're really tall mountains. So everybody else lives like Russia and that are on the top of that, but the bottom of China below it. On they're not on as high as the Himalayas. I think we're living on plateaus. It's just different plateaus everywhere.
That's kind of the way it is. I mean, and it's not like, okay, I don't live on. I mean, Florida is not really a plateau, but it would
Yeah, I
be.
think you're pretty flat because they're always suggesting that with sinkholes and the water, you might lose a lot of Florida.
Yeah, and here's okay, global warming. I'm an avid fisherman, and I've been fishing these waters out here in my area for like 30 years, and not, we see high tides, low tides, extreme low tides, extreme high tides, but not once have I seen any indication that our sea levels are rising. If our sea
Well,
levels
no,
was
I mean,
rising, do
to
you
me,
think?
it's obvious. Dubai do not build these islands in the sea if we've got global rising.
That's it. That's very true. And
It must be pretty constant if they can build these islands out there and people go on holiday on these sort of man-made sort of symbol islands. So, yeah.
yeah, I would say that if anybody thinks that the water is rising, just take a ride or fly down to Key West and spend a week down there and tell me that the ocean is rising, because a lot of those buildings have been there for years and years and years and
If
years.
it was rising, we'd be losing our beaches all the time. And I'm not saying that beaches don't go in storms, and you do sometimes. One
Right,
place
right.
might get, like if a tsunami, that might push the water over a bit, but it's not rising. Otherwise, the planes would have to keep changing their settings, wouldn't they?
Well, you mentioned Dubai. um, where did they get the sand for Dubai? Um, and this is one of the things, they went around these little islands and collected all the sand. And then what happens in the oceans is that sand has to fall back in. So the islands that were there appear to be sinking, but no, they're just disintegrating because they've got to fill that void of all that sand that has been stolen from their waters. And that was a big thing. People were literally stealing sand because they were making money to take it to Dubai.
And they also steal sand from beaches to make houses and flats and things as well.
Oh yeah, yep. We used to have a lot of what they called
What do you think all the
boathouse.
sinkholes are in Florida? Because there's a lot of sinkholes, many, many, many sinkholes in Florida, around Florida, that bit.
Well,
Is
I
it
know
because
for
they're fracking?
I don't know if there's much fracking in Florida as there is in some other states, but what I found was, when they do these big subdivisions, what they used to do is they used to dig these big holes, and they used to knock down trees and all the grass, and they would just bury it and just dig a big hole, throw all the trees and stumps and everything in this humongous big hole, and guess what would happen? Well, that stuff would rot. Then the ground above it would sink in. I
Well, I
talked
think
to
that's happened because this woman, I was watching her, so she's not a flat earther. She's just, she's just into her research, and they found trees out in the water about 60 miles out of Florida in the water, like they have in Doggerland. So there must have been more land. Something's happened.
yeah, matter of fact, I mean, I've been out there on the Gulf where I'm in a lot of rocky areas, and it actually looks like formations, like somebody had something built there before. Because it's just uncanny how you look at it, and you're like, man, this kind of goes out and looks like a wall, because then it turns left and has this angle to it that you wouldn't think that you know that this wouldn't grow naturally.
So,
Um,
but
you
how
know,
long have you been going to the beach and the like the weather with the beaches to the water where you're filming? It hasn't changed, has it? How many years have you been doing it?
oh well, my wife and I, we went out to the Bay or Pine Island beach back when we were in our 20s, and no, it hasn't changed much. A few storms had wiped out the little observation deck there that just stands up, a few feet off the ground. Um, it's not like a big tower or anything. It's just like a little uh, dock that sets maybe 3 feet, 4 feet off the ground, and people go up there to stand to get a better view. Now, this is something. The Hernando Beach Islands that I film all the time. I've actually been on top of that little observation tower. Matter of fact, this is going to be part of my documentary, where I'm up on top of that with my tripod up 5 feet and zoom in on the islands, and they looked all cut off. Boats were cut off. But then I've got footage where I'm down literally in the water below that observation deck. And I'm zoomed in on the islands, and you can see the islands perfectly.
Yeah, you've done it with that down on your beach with the power station, haven't you? Where you've had the camera so low down you shouldn't be able to see the power station, and you still do.
Yeah, yeah. That was one of the best nights of visibility I ever had. Matter of fact, I'm I'm hoping that I can go down there and get some more footage, just because from October to like February, there's days where wow, it's like uncanny visibility and with no um, distortion, okay, but magnification. It almost seems like there's always this magnification that it's occurring. Because again, I zoom in on the Bayport rack all the time, and I got so many different appearances of it. It's like I want to say, will the real Bayport rack please stand up? Because like, which one is the right one? And I think it should appear further away, but when it's
But you know
magnified.
what? That thing happens on land, because up the road from me, about 15 miles, 20 miles, is Silbury Hill. And what it was is I was with a group of people. We'd been to see the pyramid, and we were in the car park, and then someone said, "Look at the size of the pyramid." At the car park, not that far, just only so many steps away from the fence, the pyramid now has grown, like it was about 4 times the size it was. And then when you walk to the fence, it gets smaller. It goes back into the corner of the field. When you're standing at the car park, it looks enormous. So that effect that you're getting in the water happens on land as well, but maybe a lot more people choose the water to show it.
Yeah, it does occur on the land.
What's his name? Enslaved by No Media showed that.
Yeah, and you know why he was saying that they're not as far away as what we're told, but yes, they are that distance. It's just that some days you go out there and it looks like it's right in your face, and then the next thing you know, it looks further away. It's that magnification that's causing that. And wait till you see the little test I do um, to show what my theory is. And I don't really call it a theory. I really look at it as this is fact. And if people in the past had the ability to have one of these cameras, these zoom cameras that we have today, I think that would the whole thing about refraction would change. That you're not seeing over a curve, and the refraction is lifting something up and setting it right in front of you. There is displacement, though. There is displacement, but it's not lifting shit up over a curve. You just can't see over a curve. If there's a curve there, set your camera there for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and see if it changes. See if you can see it's something beyond that curve. You can't. It just doesn't happen. I mean, light
So,
can bend
so the
around.
clouds must be causing the reflection, mustn't they? They must be causing it.
Yeah, well, again, light can curve, but it doesn't pull shit up. that's that's just a big pile of bullshit that science feeds us about refraction. Or when somebody caught the Chicago skyline, that they shouldn't have never have seen what they were seeing, and then the weatherman comes on and says, yeah, like the bending of the light and the hot air and cold air and layers, and that's a long line of just absolute garbage, because really he just had a good day of visibility. I mean, that would explain it all. Good visibility compared to bad visibility. And then when you look at refraction, you say, wow, it's actually the light refraction that's keeping you from seeing having a good visibility day. It light does cause a lot of issues. I mean, you overexpose something, um, and the light just, put it to you this way: if I try to do a time lapse with a 30-second exposure during the day, you just get nothing but a white screen because it's just too much light to have a 30-second exposure. Now you do a 10-second exposure or a 5-second exposure, you're fine. But these same way with the stars, people zoom in on them, they're completely out of focus. They've got it overexposed. They're not going to see any detail. And Jupiter's a good one because I film Jupiter both ways, because if you overexpose Jupiter, you get to see the moons, or what we're told are moons of Jupiter. But when you cut all that light down, you can see all the details of Jupiter. And I've been accused of, you're doing CGI. I have no clue on how to do CGI. I am a computer dummy. I'm lucky I know how to even make videos to put on YouTube. Basically, I got taught by a guy that turned around and shit on me. And wow, like, oh, Q and Fee. He just, we were a friend, we were friends, and we had this agreement that we were going to allow each other to agree to disagree. And as soon as I made one disagreement with him, he just treated me like garbage.
You
But he
live
did
and you
teach me.
learn, don't you, Wide Awake? That's why we're friends, because we don't do that kind of thing to each other. But you live and you learn. I've had plenty of people that have done different things around me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, the vulgar language that he used towards me and some
Yeah,
of the
he
things.
wasn't very nice to me. I don't go to you. Was Q and
Q and Fee.
yeah, don't go near him.
Yeah, I kind of, I tried to, stay friends with him, and then I found, oh, I'm done with him, because he was in the wrong, not me. And here I'm trying to get him to, overlook something that, and it's like, why waste my time on somebody that's just totally ignorant? And he's ignorant because he had me going down all kinds of stupid rabbit holes with just dead ends. So, but he did teach me kind of the basics of how to make video, and load them up to YouTube. So I took that little basic knowledge and then learned the rest of it myself, because he only showed me how to make a video one time, basically. I put out a moon video, and then after that, after he threw me under the bus, I had to figure out the rest of the stuff myself, which I did. It but as far as trying to
It's the
learn how.
same for me. I mean, now I think I could be, I should run the BBC because I feel like I'm an editor, but I've had to learn it all. It's not, so it takes, you understand, Wide Awake. It
Yeah,
takes me hours sometimes to make a video just because it'll suddenly jump. I put music on and it'll jump. I've got to start again. Or
it,
something happens. It can take hours to make these videos, can't it? I'm sure you understand that.
yeah. Well, what kind of ticked me off too is I put an arrow on my last video pointing at the thunderstorm that I was going to zoom in on, and the arrow wasn't even in the right place. I'm like, how? I had it in the right place in my video, but when I downloaded it to YouTube, it it wasn't even in the right place, and it was bigger than the one that I put on the
Um,
video. So it's like really weird. I was like, well, how did it get that big? Because I had a little tiny arrow, and the arrow was big, and it wasn't even in the right place on the video. So I was like, is that YouTube, or is that my bad editing skills? I mean, it could be my bad editing skills.
Oh, your
I,
videos are amazing. I mean, people should just go to Wide Awake if they just want to see colours. The colours, it'll be green or it'll be pink or it'll
oh,
be.
I got some really good stuff too. That's like out of this world that I've never shared with people. There's I put it to you this way: I might have shared 5%, if I'm lucky, of all of my hard drives and videos, and I've got over 400. I think close to 500 videos out there on YouTube.
And also, you know, like a lot of people want these videos. They go ABCD done. Oh, 30 seconds is the answer. We're not
Yeah,
the stuff we've got to explain. You can't do it in 30 seconds.
no, that's what kind of, you know, people do have a very small attention
Short
span.
attention span.
Yeah, but you know what they got to
But they're
realize
taught that, aren't they, by all the little videos that go on and the TikTok, they're a minute long, they are. So if you can explain it all in a minute, people put their videos on. But you need longer than that, and people's attention spans aren't very long.
well, it's not only that too. It's also the creator of the video. Most of us know that if you put out a 3-minute video, you're going to get more hits on that than if you put out a 30-minute video. Because a lot of people, oh, I don't want to sit there for 30 minutes and watch this doofus do what he does. But if you was to actually, if people was to go back and start looking at my videos from the very beginning, and they started paying attention to the size of the bird racks, the appearance of the boats and everything, you'd almost be able to put it all together yourself. But what it is a lot of people don't look at those smaller details that I look at when I review my videos over and over and over again. And I start noticing all these little details that even me in the very beginning, I kind of overlooked them. But then I started going back with that magnification in mind, and wow, it's all over the place in my videos. It's pretty obvious that
I put one out that Robert Forsh did. What was this? This boat was going in front of the sun. But when the boat, when there was a point where at the front of the boat and the back of the boat, it actually looked like it was attached to the sun. And people made such weird comments. It's like it's obvious what was going on. I don't even know how it did it, but you know, the sun was sort of like it sort of goes whoosh, like a line, like attaching, like it's a bit like a cloud. But they were trying to say, oh, that's nothing to do with that, and it's this and it's that, and you're like, how do you get that from that? Like, you can see that the sun is attached to the boat. It's just so bizarre.
Well, I'm sure people have seen. Well, there's been some flat Earth channels that put out a video where a plane, goes in front of the sun, but they've got it overexposed, and it looks like the plane goes through the sun. The plane does not go through the sun. I mean, let's use some common sense. I mean, the plane does not go through the sun. You got the sun where it's overexposed, or the sun's so bright that when the plane gets in front of the sun, you cannot see it because it's too much light. The light will
Asking you when you're filming it, because Christian's taking them with his camera, and I do when on my camera on my phone. Quite often, the sun does not look round.
Oh, well, geez, when it hits the horizon, it doesn't look round at all. I mean,
oh, of course, yes, you're the expert on this. Oh, yeah, of course, yeah.
I put out that video with all the sun departures that I've done. I mean, that was quite. I got to say, it was probably a year's worth in one, and then I did two of them where, there was probably another year's worth of sun departures in it, and every one of them you could see how the sun not only changes its size, that's something too. The sun even gets magnified. That's why.
Yeah, but you taught me something on that when you're looking at what looks like the sun, like underneath, it's reflecting. That's a mirror.
Oh yeah, yep. That's that.
And also, I did one where we said we were squaring the circle because the picture made it look like the bottom of the sun and it's kind of round, but when you blew it up and you zoomed in, all you're looking at actually is straight lines.
I don't know if any of your audience seen my video where I was viewing through these like 20-something foot pipes, and I actually put a flashlight on top of the pipe and got my camera pretty level. It had to be above because you could see above the pipe, but as I drug that light back away, it actually looked like it was setting, and it wasn't setting. It was still on top of a flat surface. So that's why I say that these Globers got it all wrong. They try to put everything back on you to prove it. Well, why can't we say prove the curve? They can't. All they can do is use NASA fakery shit to throw at us and say, look, you see the curve from the space station. Well, if Felix Baumgartner was only a quarter of an inch off of Earth and he was at near space jump, and Mike, or I was going to say Mike Tyson, Neil deGrasse Tyson said that from 2 millimeters off the Earth, it would look flat. That shit is flat. I mean, that's right out of Neil deGrasse Tyson's mouth, right? Well, how far up is the space station compared to the near space jump that Felix Baumgartner made?
Well, on one of my last videos, I tried to explain that quite often NASA will show you the moon going into the blue, or they show you the blue. Well, when William Shatner went up in the space thing last week, they were saying it's 50 miles, but it isn't. But even if it's 50 miles, but we know it's not, it's much lower than that. The space station are there. They're not in outer space. They would be just there on the edge of the blue.
Yeah, I don't think that they would see the whole side, the whole.
But we know that's only a few miles up.
Yeah, when you use a wide angle lens, you will get curvature. It's barrel distortion, which will make it look like it's round. Like a ball. Just because something is a circle doesn't mean it is literally a ball. You can hold a plate in your hand.
I don't think people understand that if it was curving and we were spinning, everything with us would be different. I know we're supposed to be in atmosphere, but it would still be different. As we were walking, our legs would want to slightly elongate or something. I don't know. It just would be different, wouldn't it?
Well, painters can paint an object that looks 3D. I mean, you can, you almost want to reach out and grab it. It looks so 3D, but it's on a flat piece of paper. So that, I mean, when we look at the moon, is it round? Is it a ball, or is it, maybe flat, or is it concave? We can't really tell. The only way to tell is to go land on it. And I used to believe in the moon landing, but actually, before I even got into flat Earth, I kind of was really questioning whether or not we went to the moon. Matter of fact, my wife and I, we went to the Kennedy Space Center when we were in our 20s, and I looked at the lunar lander, and I was like, "You're kidding me! They went to space in that? You got that? There's no way. There's no way you went to space in that thing. You didn't land on the moon in that thing. There's no way it could happen. The vacuum of space would have sucked that thing, apart in a heartbeat. I mean, it did look like a tweaker's tent. Literally, in person, you go there and you look at it and you say, no way. I mean, your common sense says no way that thing landed on the moon. And I said that back.
I think it's funny they're trying to teach us now that they can get rockets to take off and land again.
Well, yeah, I did. That's another thing that I do is from 115, 120 miles away, I'm on the east coast of, or the west coast of Florida. And I filmed the rocket launches from a couple of miles from my house. There's a little hill that I get on where I can oversee like Brooksville. And it's not the highest point in Brooksville either. There's a lot of higher points. But I get on that hill and I film the rocket launches. And I was doing a time lapse, and you did see the booster rockets come back. Now, I don't know if that's some kind of holographic trickery or what it is, but you do see them come back. But I've never been over there. I want to go over there and actually be able to film them coming back myself, and see if they're doing what they say they do, because it's to me, it's like you've got a pencil that's falling back to Earth and it's tumbling, and somehow or another they're able to.
I know the one with William Shatner, it goes like a firework for a few seconds because they've put the engines on, and it didn't just go engines on and straight down. It went. He didn't mention any of that one in his interview. All it was amazing up there, but you couldn't even see William Shatner's face, so the whole thing was just a lie anyway.
Yeah, well, I think that was all like staged. They had to get somebody like,
It's all staged, isn't it? Everything's staged. Wide Awake.
yeah, the actor, the main actor of Star Trek to go up in this. Um, well, it looked like a dildo. I mean, that's what that thing looked like.
Yes, Christian, more or less the same thing.
And it's funny because I think the pedophilia is running rampant in Hollywood and
I
with
know
all.
nearly every presenter you're looking at is a man. They're supposed to be women, but they're men.
Well, I've seen a lot that, when you look at it and you really start looking deeper, and it's like, yeah, this drag queen stuff's been going on for years. And my mom um, used to know some gay people, and they took her to one of those bars where they're um, drag queen bars or whatever. And my mom says, "Oh, she tried to talk me into going with her," and I'm like, "No, Mom, I'll be knocking people out.
I've been to one of those. I am what I am. I've been to one. I am what I am. That's the song that came on at the end as they took all their eyelashes off and everything.
Yeah. Matter of fact, when I
In
was
Spain, I just saw it in Spain.
when I was in Key West, there was one, and I'm standing there looking at outside of these posters, and I'm like, uh, um, no, I'm not going in this place. And there was a group of guys that come up, and they were fixing to head in there. I said, "Hey guys," I said, "Do you realize what kind of bar this is?" And they go, "No." I said, "It's a drag queen bar." Oh, they they did an about face and where they're like, "Where can we go?" I said, "Go to Sloppy Joe's. That's straight, you know." Uh, so they went to Sloppy Joe's. But it, my mom says you cannot tell. She knew they were, but she goes, average people would not be able to tell, if they weren't privy to the fact that they were in a bar like that.
Well, all
But
they do is they dress up as women, and it's not their voice; it's a female voice coming through, and so everybody thinks, "Oh, it's like a woman," but it isn't.
it's scary. It's scary. I mean, one of the last on stage performance that Robin Williams.
Or they do it. It's easy to do because the whole of it is a cartoon. Wide Awake. So when they make their cartoons, they just put female voices in, but they're men ones.
Robin Williams mentioned Michelle Obama having big guns. That was one of his punchline jokes, right? And then we watched. I think it was on The Simpsons where it was like, man, talk about pre-programming. I mean, next thing you know, he supposedly committed suicide. Why do all these people commit suicide or they die on the set? There's been multiple
Because
people.
they want to get rid of them.
Exactly. Like Brandon Lee. I don't think that was an accident.
All he does is turn into a different actor.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I think they did kill Brandon Lee just like they killed Bruce Lee. I think they actually did. Now, this was brought up recently as cloning, that they've had the technology to clone since the 1940s, and I don't doubt that, because remember the tree of knowledge that they ate from. Well, that knowledge has been kept secret. And and this is the reason why God did not want us to eat from that tree of knowledge, is because He didn't want us to know these certain things, how to manipulate DNA, how to or how to clone people. This is all ancient knowledge that's been. It was supposed to be meant to be hidden from mankind, but a certain group of people have that knowledge, and they are using it, and they are creating a really, really they're creating a world basically back in Noah's days, where men were mixed with animals, animals mixed with other animals, and you're coming up with these hybrids that are going to be the downfall. Now, I think we're going to
Yeah, because all that's happening is these people are trying to play God all the time.
Oh, well, yeah. Look at it right now. I mean, well, recently Joe Biden made a big joke about freedoms. Oh, freedoms. Oh, you got you don't want to what and walk around killing people. No, 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 no. He just demonized freedom to the biggest extent, and I would expect that from well, we don't want to go there, but I think anybody that hears this will know that it's just not kosher to even mess with the word freedom. When you try to change what freedom means, that's like, wow, no.
We don't really have freedom, do we? We're living in an open air boot camp.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of laws, you know, victimless crimes, right? When you have a victimless crime, nobody was hurt, nobody was injured, nobody's property was damaged, nobody's personal was damaged. There's no crime. That's not, there's no crime. These are just laws that they put in place to steal money out of our pockets so they can fine you and keep us from ever really amounting to shit, you know? And what happens to one of these elites when he does something wrong? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. They may go in
So
front
what
of a
they do
grand
now
jury.
is they
Still,
give the mayor of New York an academy, like an acting award. That's what they do.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and that guy. Well, I won't say that. I can't say that because that would hurt you. But
I
yeah,
know it's horrible to have to watch nearly every word you say.
yeah. That's what's bad, that we lost our freedom of speech. And what do they say? Uh, when you lose the First Amendment,
Well,
that's when
it's
you.
not everywhere Wide Awake, but it is on here on YouTube. You know, you can say more on BitChute or Library, but on here they're like they promote what we just promote it all.
Yeah. Well, what's the biggest platform? YouTube, right? That's the biggest flat platform that everybody
But
goes to.
people are leaving.
Slowly, slowly, and I'm planning on leaving too soon. And we're the only place you're going to find me is on Odyssey. I can't go to all these other channels. I just don't have that kind of time. I run my own business. I got 2.5 acres to maintain on top of it, and I've neglected my 2.5 acres for the last 4 or 5 years, being tied up in observations and you know doing my little tests and experiments. And I got to get back to maintaining this because it's getting out of hand. Um, so it gives me
Oh,
very little time. So I can't get on BitChute and Rumble, and I can't have 4 platforms that I'm running on because I just couldn't keep up with it. It's hard enough to keep up with YouTube.
I know. I think, but the people that have already gone don't like the rules, the way that I think what it was is that YouTube was owned by somebody else. The awful videos used to be on YouTube, horrible things, but they didn't mind showing that. And then Google bought them, and we know what Google is. It's the bull.
Well,
So, and I think it's all like a military operation, to be honest.
yeah. Well, what's terrible though is they allow some things, right, from one side.
Weird. Do you know what I find really weird? We're not allowed just to have a bit of a voice. And I'm not having a go at the channels, but these channels break into hospitals, they break into houses. These houses belong to other people. So basically, they're breaking the law by going to these abandoned places. YouTube does nothing. YouTube supports that.
Yeah, it's weird what they will allow or what
They're
they won't.
breaking the law, and YouTube supports that. You try to tell someone a little bit of truth, that's it. They're down on you like a ton of bricks, and that AI thing's going mad. Like what they do quite often is they always cut the end of the video off. Usually it's just the music, so it just goes blank. The music starts, it goes blank. But they're always doing that to me, and you think, God, I'm really being tame. Like if I wasn't controlled like this, I'd be saying a lot more.
Well, you would think that the makers of music would appreciate free advertisement of their music. You know,
Yeah, but
that's
YouTube's the only place that does that as well with copyright. You don't get that problem on Odyssey or on BitChute.
yeah, which is crazy, right?
But
Because
you know why they
again,
made those rules? Because they can, like I've used specifically non-copyright music that I've used over and over again, and then suddenly it flags up this music is copyrighted. They can do whatever they like. I think instead of arguing with them, because if you go for a copyright and you lose, they say you can lose your channel. I just delete it
yeah,
and start again.
yeah. I even had a video where I got approval from the guy that made the music, David Caron, or I think that's the way you pronounce his name, Caron. He gave me permission to use the music, and when I put it up, YouTube flagged it, and I had to delete the video. Even though I said I got permission from the guy that made music, and the people that were um, hitting me with the copyright strike wasn't him. It was like I don't know, some music manufacturer. And when I talked to Dave about it, he said no. He said they shouldn't have red flagged you on that. He goes, especially when I gave you permission and you could use it. I said, well, I did away with the whole video
I
because
think they could use that though. They just use it to their. They've got levels of things they can do to you, and that's one of them. So we don't like that video. Copyright it.
well, I find a lot of my videos wind up on the back, not just on the back shelf, but under the back
Yeah,
shelf.
you're shadow banned like me.
Oh, I have so many comments that I'm leaving. I leave comments on other channels, and it's like, wow, nobody ever responds to them. And I go back and I look, and my comment is gone. And I know the video guy, the channel maker, did not delete my comment. It's YouTube that's deleting comments. Um, if I say anything about a certain
They've gone crazy. All they want you to do is to fall down, break your neck, and everybody laughs at you. Then you'd get 1 million views.
yeah, yeah, well, that like I was saying, you're going to get more views on a 3-minute video than you are on a 30-minute video. But you're not going to be able to put any really information in that 3-minute video.
Mm.
I mean, some people are good at making them to where you get something out of them. Like, that's one thing good about Taboo Conspiracy. Ben, he takes my footage and he adds the distances and all that information on there, which I I've never said to anybody that they can't use my footage. It's just that and I really don't even want any credit, but you know, if you're an honest person, you would give that person credit, the video maker of whatever you're putting out, right? Well, Ben's always given credit to the video maker, where I've had other people that didn't give me credit. And it's not that I don't. It's not that I don't. I mean, it's like I don't
It's
really
just a
care.
respectful thing, isn't it?
Yes, yes. Or
I try as much as possible to put the people's names in, and sometimes I get a little bit worried, but sometimes these people are explaining things, and I think, oh, it's just perfect. It explains it again. It's not me saying it; it's them saying it.
well, I know of one particular channel, and I'm not going to mention his name because he's a pretty big channel out there. But he's actually taken content from other channels and made it his own. In other words, he's like, oh, I'm the first one that noticed this. No, no, because I put out a video and 2 days later he stole my content. And I wasn't happy about that. And you start looking at a lot of the bigger channels, and it's like they do. It's all talk, 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 talk. They never do any, kind of. I can't say they ain't done no experiments, but it's like I could have already told you where their experiment was going to lead before they got there. Because of perspective. You got to take perspective into account when you're doing any type of an experiment or a test. You have to consider perspective. Things get smaller the further away they get, which throws your eye level where's eye level? Well, you put a level on your camera, you can get really close to where your eye level actually is, and um, you're really not going to have um, anything go above your eye level. So if something does go above what you consider your eye level, or where you can find close to where your eye level is at, nothing ever really goes above that. And people say, oh, if it comes to eye level, well, that proves a curve, that we're on a ball. That's another thing. I get Glovers come to my channel, thanks for proving it's a globe. Then I get a concaver, thanks for proving it's a concave. And I'm like, wow, you know what? I'm going to be happy just being the pig in the middle and say it's flat. Because that's where all my observations has led me to. And that's why I became a flat earther. And some people say, well, I don't want to title myself as a flat earther, but you are a flat earther if you believe that we're living on pretty much a flat surface, or a surface, not on a spinning ball, or not inside of a spinning ball. See, that's where, if you think you're living in the inside of a spinning ball, wouldn't you have to have, or inside of a ball, that ball would have to be spinning in order for the centrifugal force to keep you pinned to the outside. If you've ever gone to any carnival places, I remember they called it the devil. They called it the devil hole. You went down and you leaned up against the wall, and the thing would spin so fast and the floor would drop out, but you would be stuck to the wall. Okay,
that's the kind of life we'd be living if we were moving, wouldn't it? That's the kind.
Yeah.
We go, oh my God, we're going over the bend. Whee!
And believe me, you knew that there was a force there. I mean, because you could move around, but man, you could feel that force. And we don't feel a force on Earth. We don't feel it.
But they'll say it's the atmosphere. Stops that.
What was funny was I got my mother-in-law. Well, we were launching fireworks, but I was like looking up at the stars, and my mother-in-law was going, "That star's moving."
You don't even have to go into a vacuum now. NASA, it's like you're in atmosphere, then you go into a vacuum. There isn't they say you just cross in.
And I told my mother-in-law and my brother-in-law, who's a teacher, I was like, you're right. The star's moving. But science tells us we're spinning. Do you feel the spin? And they just kind of looked at me like, oh,
I know. I went to one of my granddaughter's birthdays, and they were saying things. I was like, oh, this is a load of rubbish. We're in the Holy Roman Empire, and they just pretended like I hadn't said anything and carried on.
Everything moves above us. The stars move and the sky moves, but the stars are always going in the same direction unless you turn around and look south. They go clockwise when you look south.
That's weird, though, isn't it?
When you look north. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out. It's just your perspective. So they say, oh well, you can't explain the stars in the south and the stars in the north. How do you explain the star trails? Well, geez, if you turn around and look to your left or to the south, they're going clockwise. You look behind you to the north, and it's going counterclockwise. That would be everything's moving in the same direction, no matter where you're at on Earth. And it's very possible because we've got this mirroring effect occurring all around us. It's like we live in a house of mirrors. So couldn't the stars in the north be mirroring, and they're seeing them in the south, but they're kind of in different positions depending on which angle or what area?
I think it has to do with that star map I was telling you about.
Yeah.
But wait, we've been going for an hour and 20 minutes. Do you think that's enough, or do you want to go on for a little bit longer?
No, that's probably enough, Karen.
Well, what I'll do is we'll already have seen it. I'm going to put your last video that you did at the front of this, so people, because some people might not know who you are, and other people go, "Oh, look, there's Wide Awake." So I'll play the video, your last video. I'll put it on the beginning here.
Sure. that video is a good one too, because I put in a couple of different things, where I'm looking behind me after the sun departure and the sky's lit up, the clouds are lit up. They're lit up from the top. Um, no matter where I look, I can. And this is the thing: when I go out all the time, I don't film it all the time, but I do turn around and look behind me when I'm filming, and it's like I see this light up behind me, and it's like, wow, that this could not happen, because that light would have to be bending over all these clouds to light up the clouds beyond me. So yeah, um, it, just paying attention to those details.
Does it annoy you that, like, after all these observations that you've done, that you can't always pinpoint an answer for someone? It's masses of information, but it's like we're still looking for the answers still, years later, when we've been filming, researching. It's annoying, isn't it?
Excuse me, I'm trying to eat something here.
By the way, don't die or anything swallowing your food there. We were gonna.
I was just snacking on some peanuts, and I like healthy food, so I buy those cans of mixed nuts and nibble on them now and then. I don't eat them constantly. I get a big thing of them and make them last me about 2 weeks or so. And it's healthy for you. Anything raw pretty much is healthy for you. And that's one thing too, is our health. When we look at our health, right? How do you boost your immune system, right? You eat the proper foods, foods that have the proper nutrients and vitamins in them that will keep you with a healthy immune
Yeah,
system.
all we do is go to the plastic supermarkets.
Yeah, well, you can use vitamins. Like ever since this thing started, zinc, vitamin D3, vitamin C, and on top of that, I take a multivitamin too. So, I want to keep my immune system strong. I'm 58. I just turned 58 just recently. So, again, I'm getting close to
Are you 1963?
Yes.
Another person that's 1963. I'm 63 as well. We're the same age, really.
And I don't know if you've ever heard. I think it was Einstein said, if you can figure out the numbers 3, 6, and 9, you'll know the secrets of the universe. Well, I look at my year I was born, and there's 1963, 3, 6, 9, backwards, 963. I think a lot of people try to overthink a lot of things. I think these issues are simple. They're really simple, and we've made it so complicated, or basically we've been fooled by science that's made things so complicated that, the average man can't figure this out. So, let us solve it for you. We're the geniuses, right? So they make it so complicated that we still, we were like, okay, we just accept it because it's just too deep, too hard for us to figure out. So we just buy into what science says, right?
They have nothing to say, like the doctors, really. They all speak a load of rubbish.
And that's actually,
I
don't have this problem here in Florida, at least in my area. I haven't seen a cop once wear a mask during this whole thing. I have not seen cops wear a mask.
I did in London, but they've remained quite quiet, really, haven't they, through this whole thing?
And one of the, not the last time, but one of the times I was recently out at Pine Island, I was just told recently that right at sunset, right? I call it sun departure because that's exactly what it's doing. It's just departing our view. But the park closes at supposedly sunset. and I was out there well past sunset, and a cop shows up, and I'm out there, and he takes his big spotlights and he beams me, and I'm like, whoa, I'm like, wow, man, you're beaming me here. So he shut that off, and then he come down the sidewalk with his flashlight, and he's like, oh, you're out here past sunset, and you got the park closes, and I'm like, oh, I said, I didn't know. I said, I've been out here till midnight before, and nobody's ever said nothing to me. And I said, and I don't damage nothing. I said, I'm out here filming the stars, and no, you have to leave. The park's closed. So of course now I can't go out there and do my nighttime of the power plant. I have to do them during the daylight hours, which isn't quite as good at nighttime. I like doing the nighttime thing because it gives you more detail on, some days I can go out there and see it perfectly in the water or out there in the distance, and then other days it's not even visible at all. Not visible at all. You can't see shit. But yeah, it puts a little bit of a damper on my observations that I'm doing on those two
It's a bit
power
weird. It's not like you're standing in your house and you go to your wife, oh, you're closer to me today. And then tomorrow you go, oh, you're miles away from me. It doesn't happen locally, like right where you are, does it?
No.
It's really weird that. It's not like you say, oh, to your wife, oh, you look smaller today, or you look bigger today.
Yeah, you gotta be
You know
careful
what I
what you
mean?
say to your
The
wife.
atmospheric stuff.
Yeah. I just think that again, people overthink things, and it's a lot simpler than what you think it is, and we got to look at it in the simplicity that it was brought, that God gave us. It's really. I'll put it to you this way: if we lived a simple life, we'd live a wonderful life. The society has made our lives more complicated, and just basically, I think we got a sick society today. The society is sick when they're accepting and encouraging some of the things that I've seen going around. I mean, especially with little kids. Um, see, I
Yeah,
don't
we
have
all
the
would,
word.
we would like to scream it now.
Yeah.
Well, that is sort of like so masked.
Yeah. Well, they have taken evil and made it good, and good evil is what they're doing, and we see it in our society.
And they're really hammering and tonguing it at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, again, I can't.
It's frustrating, isn't it?
Yeah, because you can't. I mean, any word you say, it's like cut it, delete that video. No,
Yeah, make a problem. They've got a problem with their video. Yeah. So basically, what I'll do is we would have watched the video because I'll put it on at the beginning. But you're going to be making a documentary, aren't you?
Yeah, I don't know how long it's going to be because I want to present a bunch of stuff, and I know if I make it too long, nobody will watch it. Yeah, I might get a couple hundred views on it, but if I can get people's attention right off the bat, and that's one of the first things I want to do, is really get them to pop their eyes open and go, wow, he's making a good point here. So if I can do that, then I can get people to continue to watch the video, because what I want to present is really some interesting stuff, and it does explain why sometimes it appear like a curve, and then sometimes some people will think it's concavity, but it's neither. It's the pig in the middle. Of course, Earth has mountains and valleys, so it's not like a pancake. There's terrain across the surface. So when you take that into consideration, and then you take perspective into consideration, a lot of artists understand perspective. And then there's some artists that will argue with you. Um, and it's like, wow, I can't believe an artist would argue with me about perspective when, I've heard other artists say, yeah, perspective plays a big role in how we see what we see.
Mm.
And then if you add in some of these optical effects that we get over land and water, yeah, they'll give you that impression that something's curving away from you. Um, like Lake Pontchartrain, the bridge there. Um, Somebody did a video on that on a good day of visibility. There was no bending to that bridge. There was no disappearing and curving. What somebody's showing you where it looks like a curve, it's just there you go. There's your refraction. It'll give you an appearance of a curve.
I suppose we're only who we are with what we know, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Well, I never
In this place we are learning all this stuff, we just have to remain open.
I never considered myself a bookworm where I was, so book smart. Um, I'm a little of everything, but I'm really more street smart than anything, and also what I call common sense smart. You don't stick your finger in a light socket,
No, you don't do that one.
or you don't grab the hot pan with your bare hands. Uh, just and people do though. People do that. I had a cousin that stuck a fork in the electrical outlet. I'm like, geez, didn't you know that it was gonna zap you? Well, I didn't know that would happen. Yeah, well, lit him up.
He obviously didn't know what he was doing, did he?
And I mean, we were young, but my goodness, I had enough sense not to do that. Uh, it's just crazy that he even attempted it.
So when you put in when you're doing your documentary for a week or two's time or something.
I did not set a particular time on when I was gonna actually do it. Um, I'm been collecting. I've been going through my videos and collecting certain ones that I want to use to help show. Um, and I have to call it a theory, right? Um, because I can't 100% prove it, but I can prove it through observations of what my theory is. And then it has to go to, be peered through by other people to whether or not it's valid. It's a valid argument, that I'm making with my proofs, my visual proofs. And that's what I've always been about is visual proofs, because even if you do an experiment and you don't watch it, then you have no idea what the hell happened in that experiment, right? You have to visually observe what's going on in order for you to understand what's going
I
on.
want to ask you something, by the way, it was me here. I haven't watched it yet. Amy sent it to me, but she sent me a video where they're NASA or something. They're explaining that there's a Union Jack up on the moon as well. Did you know that?
There's something really weird with the moon.
I know, but what is we know it's all fake and everything. But when were we told that there was a Union Jack up there? We've always been told there's an American flag up there. When did they ever mention a Union Jack? It's on this video she sent me.
Yeah, I've never heard them mention that.
We live in a crazy place. I think they just change what they want when they want. They don't care.
Well, what's the difference between a ruler and a leader?
Mm.
There's a ruler wants to rule over your every move, everything you do. He wants to put out frivolous laws to fine you, right? Where a leader will only be seen and heard when the people need to be led. In other words, if I was a true leader of a president, I wouldn't make frivolous laws to penalize people for victimless crimes. Okay, because when you put laws out like that, you're basically a ruler. Um, his job is to, when we're invaded, okay, invaded by another country, and he will lead us to victory. You know, because he has those skills to lead us that way. That's what a real leader is. What we get are rulers that want to rule over our every moves, our lives. They want to even know about our financial. You know, they inject themselves into every day of our lives in every minute if they could. Um, but yet we're free. You're free to walk around. You're free to go places, but there's certain laws that you have to abide by. That these laws are not. They go against the whole idea of freedom. You know, I don't think we've ever known what true freedom actually is in this country, especially our, you know, because again, when we were born, this world has already been taken over. I believe when I was born, our government had already been infiltrated, and now it has like total control over United States government. Um, why would anybody want to attack America or attack Americans? Well, I tell you why. Is because we've gone around the world attacking all these countries trying to deliver democracy, which democracy is 50.1% ruling over 49.9%. You know what I mean?
Well, it's not
Nobody
even
should be
that.
able to
They
rule us.
all everything we watch is stories. They're his stories. They're not real. None of it.
None of it. None of it. Even Michael Jackson came out and, you know, I guess he was in a concert and then he was talking to the audience, or he was at some signing or something. And anyhow, he was up on stage and he was telling the people, don't believe the history. History's nothing but a lie. The history books are lies. Lies. And I believe that because the winners of wars write the history. So we only get one side of history. We don't get the
Yeah.
true whole fact. We get
No.
lies mixed with truth. That's what we've been given our whole lives, is lies mixed with truth.
I want to know the truth.
I'm right there with you, sweetie. I'm right there with you. And the only way that we're going to find it is to rip the veil off of what's been hiding it. And you know what? I really believe that's why, you know, they say end times. We're not really living in the end times. We're living in the beginning of the end. Okay, because there's going to be well, I should say we're living in the end of the beginning, because there's going to be a new beginning. And this veil is being lifted off of all these liars because their lies are catching up to them, Karen. The lies that they've given us,
I know, but
more and
they've
more
made sure now
people.
it's set up. We've got no one to go to. We're in this thing on our own.
Well, I noticed one thing though, that a lot more people are starting to question things. Um, and it right with, I mean, and it does lead into politics too. You know, a lot of people are starting to realize, man, these politicians are not for our best interest. They don't have our best
Well, yeah,
interest
it's just
at
like
heart.
me finding all those hospitals with all the equipment in. And some of them have got people's records, have got people's body parts. They don't give a damn about us. They've not been looking after us like they say. And the hospitals are always saying we haven't got any money. No, I'm not surprised because they've wasted all our money.
And eugenics has never died. They've
Well,
never.
politics is the same.
Well, if another country's messing around with stuff, oh yeah, you know, the United States is going to go in there and stop them because it's a, biological
Yeah.
chemical war, you know, biological chemical agent, you know, so they're going to step in there to put the hammer on these people, right? Um, America is not a democracy. America is a republic. And again, a democracy is where the majority rules the minority, no matter what the numbers are, right? Again, you know, 50.1% versus the 49.9%. So they get to rule over those 49.9%. No, that's not, that's democracy. But A republic is you have total freedom, do whatever you want, as long as you don't hurt anybody, damage anybody's property, or cause any harm to anybody. That is true freedom, but we don't have that at all. I mean, you pull up at a red light or a stop sign at 2 o'clock in the morning, well, let's say a red light because you're not supposed to go on red. You can turn right on red here in Florida, but if you're at a red light 2 o'clock in the morning and there ain't a car on the road and you go through that red light, the cop sees you, he's gonna pull you over and give you a ticket. Now, who did you hurt? You didn't hurt a thing, right? You didn't hurt nothing. And my grandfather was one that did that all the time, and I wondered why. And my grandfather says, I'm not going to sit here with my thumb up my ass when there's no victim to be had in miles. There would be no victim. There would be no accident. There's no crime if there's no victim. So my grandfather, he would stop, he'd look, here, he'd go right through it. He used it like, well, why should I wait? Because that's what a dummy would do, and we all have to do it. We all do it. Why? Well, there's a lot more people on the road today, but we all do it because we don't want to get that ticket. We're in fear of getting a fine for having enough common sense to look both ways, see that nobody's around, and go ahead and go. Right? But no, you're breaking the law. Really? Again, there's a frivolous law. There's a frivolous law.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that the red lights and green lights and all are cool, right? I mean, we should abide by them. Otherwise, man, I think people would be crashing all over the world, right? And same way with speed limits. All right, everybody speeds, but not everybody's getting a ticket, right? Now, if everybody's doing 80 and a 60, and then somebody's doing 110, yeah, they're probably going to get pulled over, and probably should because they are probably reckless. Going at that speed, they're bound to have an accident, right? Maybe they're a good driver, maybe they don't get in any accident, but eventually some idiot's going to pull out in front of you that's going to be putting and you're going to hit them. So yeah, there has to be a common ground laws that we should just with common sense abide by. But again, if you pull up at a red light at 3 o'clock in the morning and there ain't nobody on the road, yeah, go through the damn thing. You're not gonna kill anybody.
Mm.
And I've done it.
Did you, because obviously we're finishing now, but did you like having that hangout with Travis? Do you like what Travis does? I'm sure he'd come for another hangout with you.
Oh yeah, Travis and we've got a lot in common because he does a lot of what I do. And I've told people in many comments, magnification. Nobody really looks into it. And the video that Rob Skiba did, right? He did a couple of them. One of the things that wasn't really looked at is what happens to the surface and what happens to what's above or in the background. And why does it do this? Well, I got a way to show that, and that's what I want to do. And you also got to realize that this magnification, it changes. It's just like going and getting prescription glasses for one day, and then you need prescription glasses for the next day because everything changes. But so that's why you have different magnifications in glasses. So people's eyes see differently, right? So one guy could put on a pair of glasses and he's fine with them. You put the same pair of glasses on, and holy crap, it's like, whoa, shit! I feel like I'm walking off a cliff.
Well, maybe I'll try, in the next few weeks, I'll try and arrange something with him.
Yeah, and if you can do it on the weekend, the weekends are best for me. And usually later in the day is best, but I could do something in the
Travis,
morning.
putting a call out for Travis.
Yeah, I mean, I could do something in the morning because then I can still do something the rest of the day as far as getting my yard work done. Things are slowing down, so I don't have to mow the grass as often. But I've got a lot of flower beds, a lot of planting islands that are loaded with weeds and vines, and oh man, it's gonna kill me to get out there to do it. But I I don't even have a helper anymore.
Oh, I know.
We're not. You're not recording this part, are you?
No, well, so we'll finish the hangout right now.
Okay.
So,
Well,
Wide Awake, thank you so much for spending this time with us. I know we've not spoken for a little bit, and I'm very sorry about that. But I've really always enjoyed having a good chin wag with you.
yeah, and vice versa here, Karen. It's always a pleasure having a hangout with you and talking about all different kinds of subjects. That's what I like.
Oh, I
Because
love you, Wide Awake.
you know it's all around us, though. It's all around us. Truth is there, um, and people just got to reach out and grab it, and keep in mind that you should always have freedom to do as you please. Be careful.
Yeah, don't watch the television. Then your life's okay. Watch that thing. I'll be chained to a seat with a. Yeah, anyway.
Yeah. Well,
Um.
I always wondered why I got mad when I watched the news. Now I know.
Yeah.
Tired of the lies.
I very much appreciate you doing this hangout, and it's just like a pause button's on because we'll be back.
Yep, definitely be back.
Okay, thank you so much, Wide Awake. Mwah, chat room. Mwah.
Thank you. Kiss back at you.